Hello and welcome back to another wonderful day here at MSA. So glad to see you. So glad you could join us. Because today we're going to talk about something that just doesn't make sense. It has to do with censorship. And this type of censorship is it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And it's how much the federal government can lean on social media to put the pressure on them on censoring you. And this is a big deal. I mean, we've already been seeing a lot of this go on for quite some time now, especially since, look at what happened prior to the election, then look what happened after we hit the pandemic, and, people are posting things, posts are getting taken down, sites are getting taken down, all these things are getting taken down. Well, now this issue has reached up into the Supreme Court, thanks to some attorney generals from Louisiana and Missouri, and the Supreme Court is looking at it and going, I don't know if we should really go for limiting this. So we're going to get right into this in just a second. Let me go through one thing real fast. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you might only see us up until the first clip. And then from there on, we're going to be on Rumble. And the reason being is because of this very topic called censorship. We noticed that a lot of our videos on YouTube were not getting any attention, especially due to certain content. So using the Rumble platform, we noticed that same thing doesn't happen to us. So if you're watching us on Rumble, we really appreciate it. Hit that follow button while you're there and give us a thumbs up if you like this video, but especially make sure you tap that screen. When you tap the screen, we actually get credit for you watching the video. Okay, and if you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe. If we can grow this channel even bigger, we can get the algorithms out there and be just like the big guys, and then we don't get censored as much. Now, let's get back into this. Today, we're going to get a little help from Russell Brand, and Russell's going to help us explain to you what this censorship's all about, what the driver is, and how they're looking at it. So, we're going to get into this in just a second. Before we do, we're going to play this clip. And then we're going to talk about what really needs to be said. So, again, YouTube, you might have to switch over to Rumble to catch the rest of this because we don't like being censored, and neither should you. See you in just a minute.
The Supreme Court heard arguments yesterday on social media censorship claims against the government. The court seemed likely to reject the bid by two GOP-led states to restrict the federal government from urging social media companies to restrict misleading posts or disinformation on their platforms, unless there is a threat of retribution. At issue, Republican AGs of Missouri and Louisiana brought that case along with several individuals who claimed that platforms like Facebook suppressed their views against vaccines and lockdowns during the pandemic at the government's demand. The court voiced more sympathy with the administration's defense during yesterday's arguments across a broad spectrum of those justices. The justices questioned whether any plaintiffs suffered harms that gave them a right to sue, and they expressed skepticism that the government's interactions with social media companies amounted to official restraint.
So they are saying that the government will be able to continue to pressure social media companies, even though we know now that there was a lot of true information that was censored, even though we know now that we live in a curated reality where Google, for example, can amplify particular stories and news feeds where you can be censored and shut down, where true information can be excluded. Essentially, we are in a continual 360 programming simulation that now seems less likely than ever to be penetrated by alternative sources of information.
Okay, you got to see that clip. Now, let's break this down real quick. What is Russell talking about with this bubble, right? This created simulation that you're living in. It's basically he's making fun of the fact that we only get to see what they want us to see, right? This 360 bubble. And as far as the sources of information, what he's talking about is that if they don't want you to hear it, you're not going to hear it. It's exactly what that means. When the reporter talked about the misinformation being taken down or the disinformation being taken down, at whose discretion? Who is the one that decides what is supposed to be said and not supposed to be said? Now, understand under terms of conditions, that's completely different. You agree to that when you jump on a platform and or making videos, however you're getting your information out there in your videos or your podcasts or whatever you're doing, you have a terms and conditions that you need to follow. But outside of those terms and conditions, if you're just talking about current events, whether it be an election or various things that are going on, who's deciding? what's real and what's not real? Who's deciding what's right and what's not right? Why is it going against their narrative? We've always had wonderful debates in this country where you have someone that's pro and someone that's against, and they bring their ideas and hash things out together. But see, now what we're talking about is one or the other has to go away because we can only have X to follow us through life because you can't handle the truth, is basically what it's saying. Now, we're going to roll one other clip here and keep this rolling. Let's see what Russell's got to say next. All right? Be right back.
But they're continuing, even though the body of evidence is they were wrong to have done it. They've lost the argument, and now they're trying to double down on the control. And of course, that's not a coincidence. That's why. Because now they're worried, oh no, look, what happened was people were telling the truth at the time that we were incorrect, and that will continue to happen. Whether it's wars or the next time we try to say, everyone get in your house for, I don't know, is it a solar flare? Is it a cyber attack? Is it a terrorist attack? Is it another pandemic? Whatever it will be that is used to legitimise the next bold gambit to steal away control of your life, they want to ensure that people online going, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right, are silenced. Because like last time, here's a bold prediction, those people will be right. Not the government, not the FBI, not the CIA. And while the New York Times are saying, hey, they're just regular guys, this person come from a blue-collar background, that's not important. Literally, truly not important. Giving power to unelected officials who remain in power no matter what administration seizes the throne for a moment only to implement the exact same agenda is not a system of government that any of us should be accepting. And we know that now, so they're just going to censor the conversation that we're all having.
The justices seem skeptical of the idea that by alerting social media companies to disinformation, the government was somehow coercing them. They didn't see the evidence for that, and they said there should be a place for government officials to go to platforms and talk about harmful content as long as they weren't, again, using their powers to coerce these companies, because that would violate the First Amendment, but the justices weren't seeing that.
Seriously? Seriously? The government was to alert the social media companies? Because if not, it's coercion and all that. I mean, come on, get real. The government needed to alert? What are you alerting? What was going on? I mean, I've seen so many things on social media. I've seen so many things on the internet. I've seen so many things on Google, if you look it up, or other platforms, if you look it up. And I'm still trying to bite down on this whole censorship thing. You know, by listening to what is being said here, with people being right. I mean, the whole thing that Russell went into about people being right and they were censored anyway and the whole shebang. And then you're looking at the reporter talking about how basically, you know, these companies were not being coerced into doing that because that would be wrong. It would go against the First Amendment. But don't you feel like they were being coerced? Don't you really? I mean, I don't want to be the one to bring it up, but I feel like they were seriously coerced by the government into making sure that they followed their rules and that they only played what they wanted to have played. One of the things that I didn't play in this whole segment is when Elon Musk took over Twitter, the FBI had been working together with Twitter. We've seen, you know, if you've seen any of the congressional hearings on this, where they, you know, Lauren Boebert got in front of the Twitter executives that were doing this, and they were being told by FBI agents what to take down, what not to take down, in the whole 9 yards. And then Boebert found out herself that she was being censored. You know, a congresswoman was being censored on Twitter. They took down her platform on Twitter. Really? Are you kidding? Or excuse me, her account on Twitter. Going into all of that, what are we doing? Where's it headed? You see all this and you wonder, where's this headed? Where did it head? I'll tell you where it headed. The FBI took all the information that they had stored on all of that and they dumped it, which is massively against the law. The Information Act does not allow you to do that. No different than the January 6th committee when they recently dumped 1.5 terabytes of interviews and information and things that they had stored. And before they turned all these things over so all the other people could go through it, they dumped all this information. Why? Why did you need to get rid of the files? Huh, Liz? Huh, Cheney? Why'd you do it? Because the information in there was real. and they wanted to censor that information from anybody else seeing it so their narrative could continue on down the road. That's the only way you can come up with this kind of stuff, right? Okay, I'm going to play one last clip. I know we've been clip, but I got to play one last clip because it's super important. You got to watch this. It's really, really cool. Be right back.
After Elon Musk bought Twitter, we began to see just how much the government had been using the company to censor speech online. Journalists such as Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger published internal Twitter documents showing that the government was deeply involved in Twitter's content moderation decisions. Musk even called Twitter a crime scene. Since then, the Select Subcommittee has obtained direct evidence showing how the government coerced and colluded with Facebook, YouTube, Amazon, universities and others to deliberately censor certain viewpoints. For example, we uncovered how the Biden White House directly pressured Facebook and YouTube to take down posts with which the White House disagreed, including true information, memes and other content that did not violate the company's content moderation policies. Of those listed, I would say true information is the most troubling, because when you consider that Supreme Court justice saying, we're hamstrung. No, hold on. This is because they were wrong. They were wrong. What they were saying was wrong. What they were doing was wrong. And you're trying to make it right somehow. This is ridiculous. And while this piece is, of course, by a Republican politician and therefore partisan, it's irrelevant really, because Mark Zuckerberg himself admitted, I think with Lex Friedman, that they had censored true information on Facebook because the government asked them to.
Kind of establishment on that, asked for a bunch of things to be censored that in retrospect ended up being more debatable or true.
So I don't know how much more information we need on this subject.
Okay, I told you that was important. See, when the subcommittees came and found that, Facebook and Twitter and all this had been coerced, meaning, by force, told what they could and could not do, what they should and should not say, or have shown, I should say. And all this came forward. So to sit there and say that you're hamstrung by the First Amendment, of course you are. The First Amendment is the First Amendment. You are a Supreme Court justice. You know exactly how important the First Amendment is. There is no way of walking around it. There is no way of alluding to it. People had their rights violated, especially those that had their rights violated when the content that was taken down or suppressed didn't violate any of the platform's terms and conditions. And you actually heard in that clip Mark Zuckerberg himself come forward and say things that we were taking down were debatable and all that of that nature, meaning that there was nothing, it wasn't disinformation, it wasn't misleading, it was real. So where do we go from here? You've heard me say this on other segments, and I'm going to say it again. The only where to go from here is literally reach out to congressmen and senators and help persuade them to start voicing, for you to the Supreme Court. Reach out to the Attorney General of Louisiana. Reach out to the Attorney General of Missouri and send them an email and voice your opinion on how you feel about censorship. This kind of stuff is ridiculous. We can't go, do, say, or feel any way we want on a social platform without being taken down. Why? Because it's big business. And they talk about Russian disinformation, all that. We're talking about Americans talking to Americans, posting videos and things like that. There's other countries, other people that post these things, and they have to follow the same terms and conditions that everybody does. And if they don't, the platform itself can remove it. We don't need the government telling us what we can and cannot say, okay? Because even hate speech and things of that nature, those are all protected under the First Amendment rights. Do I suggest going and doing it? No, it's ridiculous. Nobody needs hate speech. Nobody needs racial slurs, none of that kind of garbage. But it's technically protected under the First Amendment rights. So what are we doing? If we don't start taking care of ourselves and monitoring what's going on, pretty soon everything you see will all start to sound the same, because it'll all have to sound the same, or we won't be within the parameters that don't get taken down and or censored. Do me a favor, let me know what you feel in the comments. And again, as usual, like, share, and subscribe if you saw us on YouTube. If you're on Rumble right now, hit that follow button. We really appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up if you can. Hope you tap that screen during all of that. And let's move forward, because we've got a whole bunch of other things coming your way really quickly here. Now, We do love and care about every single one of you, and we hope that you're having the best day, night, whatever it is, wherever you're at. And we'll be right back to see you with some more of this kind of stuff again. So you take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.